Hello, friends. Hi, this is Tahir Hussain. I'm the founder of the Unstoppable Millionaire Academy, the author of the Unstoppable Millionaire book. And I just wanted to introduce myself to let you know that uh, who I am, where I come from. So, I've been in the world of business for over 2 decades, created self made millionaires around the world, have students who have benefited from the Unstoppable Millionaire Academy. And my obsession is around the fact that how do I get to empower you and the people around the world based on the wealth that can be created that is out there waiting for us. So that's a quick one on me. And here's the other part about why am I doing this particular masterclass, creating wealth in difficult times? Because as we realize that the pandemic, no matter which part of the world you are in or you come from, has somehow directly or indirectly impacted and changed our lives forever. So I'm here to let you know that how could you take advantage of what's going on in this time of pandemic? How can you take advantage of that? And how can this pandemic, these difficult times you feel you might be in, allow you to not only just create wealth but also learn some habits and become financially independent? So that's what this masterclass is all about. And it's going to be exciting, it's going to be unique, because while people are figuring out how they're going to survive, we're going to talk about how you're going to thrive in the midst of a pandemic and make sure that the next decades of your life you're financially in a better off position. So this week, I want to talk about wealth creation during the pandemic. I want to talk about when we hear that millions have lost their jobs, the industries are shrinking, the pandemic has made a lot of businesses to collapse. When there's so much negativity out there in the media, when you are too overwhelmed with so much negativity, here's the thing. There is hope. In fact, we are historically living through absolutely phenomenal times. Extremely challenging, at the same time, extremely opportunistic. So let's do a quick recap. COVID-19 has done these to us today. I want to talk about how the world that once we knew is completely gone. Think about it. Think about your day-to-day life and how that has impacted. Not just at a government level, maybe elections happened or something major that needed to change, but on an individualistic level, how the everyday habit that you used to have that had to change without a choice from you. And what change does that habit allow you to do when it comes to wealth creation? Interesting, during the time of pandemic. The economy as we knew is absolutely gone. It's changed. A lot of people say it's not going to come back the way it was, and there's a lot of debate going around that. But in wealth creation, the whole idea is, how do you adapt to the changes? And to adapt to the changes, you should know what the changes are, because there are a lot of people right now who are living in absolute denial. They think the world is going to bounce back as soon as COVID-19 disappears. And then here's the thing. When we were starting in January 2021, didn't we think it will be all gone? The vaccines are out. And yet we are in the mid of this year and nothing has changed, literally. The vaccines are out, but the variants are out, and all of that is out. So we can either look and blame the situation and say, I wish that changed. Or you could look at yourself and say, you know what am I going to do in the midst of this economic change, economic downturn and economic upturn as it happens? How am I getting ready to adapt to the new economy? What am I going to learn when it comes to the industries? a lot of industries have gone. So many new industries have showed up, like digitally moving around. Today, of all times in human history, the amount of digital movement that happens historically has never happened before. Partially because the pandemic forced a lot of us to be shut down in our homes. Partially because of that. But that always allows for new innovation, new growth. Some companies like Zoom have become multi-billion dollar companies just during the time of pandemic when it comes to their revenues, because they were ready. They adapted, they changed. So ask yourself this question: what are you doing in the industry you are in to adapt and change to the new economy, to adapt and change to the new world? Because you cannot create wealth from the old mindset you had pre-pandemic. You just cannot do that. So it's time to adapt and change. What are you doing differently? And here's the thing, whether it is your work, whether it is your career, whether you're an entrepreneur, literally anyone and everyone needs to learn what wealth creation is about during the time of pandemic. How are we aligning our mindset to be sure that we are good to go, we are ready to charge and move forward regardless how things work around us. When things don't work, let's say you're in an industry, F&B, food and beverages, heavily hit, aviation, heavily hit. Some industries have been heavily hit. How did you adapt? How did you diversify? Where else is the money, the income, the investment, the passive income coming out for you from? Good question to ask, isn't it? So that's what I wanted to share this week, that the wealth creation during the time of the pandemic requires you to adapt. I understand human beings don't like changes. I totally get it. Leave me alone. I'm comfortable in the space I'm in, with the habits I'm in. But then the pandemic comes and hits you hard. It doesn't give you a choice. That while we feel we don't have a choice, always remember that you always have a choice. You always have a choice to adapt. You always have a choice to unlearn and learn new things. You always have a choice to be basically watching me right now. That is also a choice. Right? Because too many people make the wrong choices, because every hour, every minute, you get to decide what you want to do with your life. In the midst of all of this, what are you going to choose? That's the message I want to leave with you in this video, that what are you going to choose when we are in the middle of a pandemic, you're financially hurt, your industry is collapsing. How have you diversified? What have you learned new? Who are you following today, who you were not following earlier, to make sure that you can have a better living? So these are the questions we need to ask before we get into the other weeks, right? The reason we need to ask these questions is because this is my way of preparing you. And I want to tell you my story. This is important, because while I'm telling you to do what would be ideal for you to do in terms of the choices you make and the innovation, here's what I was doing when the pandemic kicked in. When the pandemic kicked in, the number one thing I told myself, Tahir, buckle up, get ready, because it's going to be a rough ride. This was back in March 2020. And boy, it was a rough ride. And then it got a bit better, and then rough, and then better. And here we are as I'm doing this video. It's been 8 weeks, 9th weekend, and we are in a full shutdown in Malaysia as I'm doing this video, just to give you an idea. Yet I've had one of the best years ever in a decade. What was the message I was telling myself a year ago? Tahir, get ready, buckle up, it's going to be a rough ride. So what I started to do was I went all out in every single skill I had, in every single skill I could learn, and I was completely 101% fully engaged. And in English, as we say, get the bull by the horn, ready to get the bull by the horn. Let's make it happen. It's going to get tough, and it did. Couldn't travel, couldn't do. There's a whole list of things you couldn't do. There's a whole list of things I think all of us as human beings in some form took for granted. So I was like, no, it's not going to happen. So one of the things I did with myself was, what can I learn new? Every single day is about learning new. Thanks to technology, internet, you've got people you can follow, people who inspire you. Who are you following? That would be extremely important when it comes to what I was doing, right? And I've already proven that my last year was my best year in a decade. Can you imagine that? In the middle of a pandemic. And we're discussing wealth over here, wealth during the time of pandemic, right? So that's one of the things I do. The other thing I did is, if I was putting in 8 hours of work, let's say in a day, whatever work means for you, I went out and started putting 12, 13 hours of work in a day. I saved a lot of time not commuting. So I had that extra time and I made sure every minute counted. I'll repeat that. I made sure every minute counted when the pandemic was hit. I didn't want to waste time doing things that were not important. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't relax. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go and chill and watch a good movie, but know how much time you're spending relaxing when your life is at stake, when the life of people you love and care is at stake. So that's another example of what I was doing. I put in more hours. I put in more hours when the world was trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, let the world figure out what's going on. I need to figure out what's going on in my world of business, in my life, and I'm going to go all out. So if I was doing 80, 90% of effort pre-pandemic, I went 100, 120% effort during the pandemic, whatever that means. So I went and did more free sessions during a pandemic than I've ever done in my life. More free sessions, meaning I'm reaching out to a lot more people. I went completely digital with the Unstoppable, which I could have done 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but I didn't. But I went all out doing that. What does that mean for you when we talk about wealth creation? When we talk about your financial well-being in the middle of a pandemic, what is that skill that you're doing? Where is your time going? And how do you use that time to your advantage to get to the next level? That's the message from this particular session this week on why wealth creation is important during the time of a pandemic, how I was able to do that, some real life examples, and how you can do that. So I'll see you in the next week. So do join me for this absolutely free masterclass on 4th of September, 9 p.m. Malaysian, Singapore time, 9 p.m. on 4th of September. Mark your calendars. It's absolutely free. And this masterclass is called Creating Wealth in Difficult Times. Click on the link in my bio or anywhere else where you see the link popping up. And I really look forward to seeing you in my masterclass.